afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another Propagandacast Lehr with me, your host, Imperial Dane, master of instruction and education and propaganda, as it turns out. And we're looking back here at the StuG III E. Someone recently asked in the first video for if it has changed since, well, the beginning, and yes, it has. And so there hasn't been a lot playing it after since then. I figure, you know, if I caught a chance of it, I'll then, you know, actually cast it. And here we go. We got someone actually using the StuG III E. Overall, the StuG III E is an assault gun, meaning it's a weapon meant for supporting infantry. And we sort of compare with the differences of the previous version. It was sort of more direct fire, just, you know, shoot, stuff dies. Well, the second remastered version, really. And its anti-vehicle abilities have sort of been quite diminished. So it's much more of an anti-infantry vehicle. Can deal with armor, can deal with infantry dug in houses, though, and can, you know, overall sort of blast away. You'll generally, though, want to use the attack round, as in several cases when it comes to it, since the regular shots have been inaccurate. In many ways, you can consider it like a Sturmpanzer 4, but a lot cheaper, thus making it a lot more viable. It doesn't have nearly as much health or armor, but it makes up for it by just being more accessible and cheaper. But overall, you want it supporting infantry versus dug-in infantry support weapons and the like. Though if you are hitting particularly for anti-tank guns, you generally really want to try and use attack rounds, sort of hit them in the right spot, sort of maximize the damage. Furthermore, of course, again, the whole thing there with infantry support also means you have to be a lot more careful versus vehicles, since where previously it was quite good versus vehicles, now it's a lot more vulnerable to any light vehicles or armor and can quickly be destroyed if you're not careful. I mean, it does have target weak point, but that's the most there to support other armor and anti-tank weapons versus it. Getting more than one StuG E, while a bit expensive, can provide you with some benefits, as they can thus leave more sort of barrage targets, and that way do a lot more damage. Also, recently good weapon versus blobs. Of course, not amazing, but it can have a nice impact versus them when utilized correctly. But overall, work them together with infantry. Don't just spam them and sort of rush them in, while you can to an extent maybe get away with it in the early moments of the game where opponents is going to be caught off guard. Long term, it's not quite going to work out so well. Since overall, the StuG E, again, assault gun, it needs to be supporting infantry and other elements sort of have the most impact. And so we know, not so much for shot weapons, sort of more just, you know, long term, you sort of wear the opponent down and make their life miserable as much as possible. Of course, versus the StuG E, you don't want to be blobbing up there, so that rather makes things easier for it to murder your stuff. So you can see there, infantry sort of getting slowly blasted, but as you might notice, it's not making huge splashes either, but it's having some sort of impact. And overall, again, it's sort of more protected fighting. It will sort of slowly whittle down your opponent, make life miserable. It's not so near a shock, haha, I just blew your stuff apart, sort of. It's just more, you know, constant pressure, constant mystery, and occasionally you sort of, you know, get an explosive wipe like that, but most of the time you're not going to be looking in that. And again, they are quite vulnerable. A few hits from an anti-tank gun, and they'll be quickly going down. So once more, keep them behind infantry, screen them, have the infantry spot for the StuG Es, and only bring them forward when there's something you really have to deal with, you know, further forwards, like say a machine gun in a house, infantry in a house, or a specific anti-tank, and even then you might want to try and flank it or something like that. Or if you can keep those things in mind while utilizing the StuG E, you should overall find yourself in a decent position. And overall depends on overall how your opponent is playing. I mean, a sort of map there with a lot of houses, you might find some usage for it if you don't want to go for munitions or flamethrowers. And of course, your opponent does have to have at least a certain amount of infantry for it to really be worth it. Though, of course, in those circumstances, it can be decently worth it. Perhaps not so much versus the Russian, but versus the Brits, for example. With their more expensive squads, the StuG E will probably perform better versus the Americans, sort of so and so. So, sort of a bit of a mixed thing there. But again, so there's a lot of conscripts. You're probably not going to find as much impact, say, versus the Brits, but again, just sort of the ability to just, you know, kill a unit here and there and sort of do a lot more damage to the squad there. Could probably have a bigger impact. Plus, of course, that way sort of doesn't care so much about the received accuracy bonuses, thusly, you know, helping a bit versus the Brits if they go heavy on the infantry. So that should overall sort of cover the revised StuG E here and what it can do, its capabilities, and how to utilize it. And again, to summarize, keep it behind infantry. Don't expect massive carnage right away, just slowly bleed out your opponent, wear them down, and use it to deal with dug-in infantry. If you can sort of keep those things in mind, you'll overall do quite well. It's a support weapon like the StuG III E, and like the StuG III E, well utilization of the StuG E can reap plenty of rewards. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you. If it has, you know, subscribe, like, share, and comment on it. If you like what I do do consider donating or pledging on Patreon. Links are in the video description. Every little bit helps me out a ton with this. So thank you all, and see you all in the future for another video. Cheers.